Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to continue on the Case 310G Bulldozer Restoration Project. We are going to continue assembling the transmission and we're going to bring you along. Today we are going to focus on making sure that our shifter fork and everything functions before we set the preload on our input shaft. That way we can tell if anything is binding. If this changes in any way, we will know we have some kind of an issue here in the transmission. Highly doubt we will, but you never know. We will then focus on setting the preload on the input shaft. We have our shims all shined up, and we will get to that in just a moment. Our first order of business is going to get the shift cluster installed. We have to align the shift forks with this groove and this groove. I'm just going to put these bolts in semi-tight and make sure that all the gears function before we set our preload so that we can sense if anything is binding on this. We have the gear shift assembly snugged up with the assistance of our Harbor Freight ratchet wrench and 9/16 socket. Looking good. We can shift this side to side as you would imagine. We are now going to go into first gear. We will pull this out. First gear, rotate. Everything seems to be good. We will now go into reverse. I'm going to be turning this clockwise the entire time. Reverse. Spinning the opposite direction. No binding, doesn't seem to be any stiffer. Now go back to neutral. We will go into second gear. Just had to get the teeth aligned. No binding, no irregular noises. Spinning a little bit faster. Go back to neutral. Feels quite good. Third gear. And we are in direct. Spinning very fast. Almost 1-to-1, I believe. So, I will call the shifter assembly done. We will now remove this, and I believe we can set our preload. Getting very exciting. We are going to now start to try to achieve our 15 inch-pound of preload on the input shaft. We are going to start with all of our steel shims. We're going to leave our plastic one out for now and see where we land. We will bring you along. I have stacked all of the thicker shims on the outside. Make sure this is all lined up correctly. Make sure the holes line up. I have a feeling this is going to be too many shims. We will see. Again, I'm going to be walking these bolts in slowly, kind of a triangular pattern. And some of these shims had some deformation on them, almost like they are not like all the holes are not concentric. So I really took my time, made sure all the holes line up, so hopefully we do not deform the shims as we go here. There is no need to try the torque wrench yet because this is nowhere close to 15 inch-pounds. So now we take our thinnest shim out and try again. Trying to maintain the orientation as well, because it's like these holes are not perfectly concentric. We don't have to get too crazy here because this is just pot metal. Preload nowhere close. We'll try it here just for the sake of trying it. Nothing on our torque wrench yet. Next thinnest shim comes out. I will check back in when the next shim is out. You've already seen this. I am now just starting to get some resistance. We're going to take out our next thinnest shim, go right back in. We'll bring you back. We are getting closer. Kind of hard for me to turn this by hand. Fingers crossed. Let's see where we're at. Still not quite there. Now we are going to remove our thickest shim, which would put us back to 0 shims. We don't want that. Now we go the opposite direction. We start walking down. Thickest was just tried, next thickest, thinner, thinner, thinner down the line. We are starting to get dialed in, so we'll bring you back once we get a little closer. With our next thinner shim, we are sitting at 30 inch-pounds of resistance, or preload rather. So now I'm going to add our thinnest shim with this and see if that changes it. We'll bring you back once we have that done. I believe we are as dialed in as we can be. I have this at 17 foot-pounds. No, I'm sorry, 17 inch-pounds. If I go up to 18, it will click sometimes. Now I think what will change this will be the transmission oil is going to heat up. Things are going to expand. They will tighten as well with some expansion. Some things do tighten up. I have a seal here. You can't really count on that because that is going to wear in at some point. So this might get a little bit stiffer, if you will, once this new seal is installed. But I think we are as close as we can get, putting that at 17 inch-pounds. There we don't have a click. There we have a click. So there might be a little bit of a tight spot in the transmission somewhere. That will all wear in. We have brand new gears. I don't know if you can see that or not. I think we're dialed in. See there, it did not click. I'm going to say we're dialed in and call that good. Now we have the shim stock set where we want it. We are very gently going to set that aside, and we are going to maintain our orientation. We can always find that back, not too big of a deal. Something I want to note before we move on to installing our new seal is that there is a oil passageway right here in the transmission. I will show you that in just a second, and right here. Now, with the shim stock having to be oriented a certain way, I have a feeling that the factory offset one of these holes so that this oil passageway slot could not be misaligned. If this seal does not get lubrication, it will be rolled out in probably an hour's worth of running, and then you're going to have a unsealed transmission. I wanted to note the oil passageway right there. This assists in lubrication of the bearing and the seal. Very, very cautiously, we are going to drive our seal I believe we have movement. Using our seal driver here. Okay, we're about to have it. I want to be very careful not to warp this. Took my time. I think we did just fine with it. We have our seal removed. Old part number is Victor 60349. Very nice, heavy, big old seal. Sadly, the modern equivalent feels like a pop can in comparison. Real thin, single lip. They do work. I'll stop pontificating. Modern replacement part number, if you don't want to go through the dealer, is 118202TB-H-BX. We will go ahead, get this installed once we have this cleaned. I flipped up the carpet on the workbench here. This is going to be our setup because I have a nubbin here underneath of my seal driver. So I need a place for that to go, hence the big 1-inch thick press blocks off of the pneumatic press we have. I'm going to back up this sealant with the right stuff. I think with this stuff, a little bit will go quite a long way. We're just wanting a very thin layer of the right stuff. They got a good name for that, Permatex brand. Have a thin little film around that. We'll set that in there. Now, get our seal driver. This is not going to take very much. In fact, we're probably just one more love tap away. Okay, our squished out right stuff tells me that we are flush, and I don't even have as thick of a seal as I had before, so I think we're going to be just right. I have lubricated our input shaft with assembly lube as well as the seal. You can perhaps see the shininess there. I am going to use grease as a gasket, if you will. I've seen this done other places. I'm going to put it between the shims, put it on the face here. A little bit goes a long, long way. My thought behind that is, if this decides to weep, no big deal. That's just one step in ye old rust prevention plan. And it says nothing about using a gasket, anything like this, for this. We're at the top end of the transmission. I don't think we're going to have any problems, but a little bit of grease will not affect our preload, and it will just help to seal these shims a little bit more, keep the oil in the transmission instead of weeping. To each his own on this. I personally don't mind my hands getting a little grody, especially with grease. Like I said, a little bit goes a long, long way for this, because we're going to do in between each shim as well. We're going to gently, gently walk this new seal on these splines. There we go, just popped over. Make sure, kind of going to just wiggle it. You don't want to just slide it all the way down. If there's any kind of little sharp edge on that spline, it will weaken your seal. There we go. Beautiful. Oh, that feels nice. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are one step closer to our goal. This is going to wrap up another installment of the Case 310G Bulldozer Restoration Project. It's a slow, slow crawl for me. I appreciate all the viewers. You are the guys that keep me motivated to keep coming out here. I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time.